Let's join Heather and our board certified behavior analyst, Alex Grosso, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking to become an RBT in a school setting? Or just want training that actually fits the work you do every day? Our school-based RBT 40-hour training was built just for that. This course meets the 2026 training requirements and was created by real school-based specialists who know what the job actually looks like. It's engaging, up-to-date, and grounded in the classroom, not a clinic. With cross-training connections for para-educators and study tools to help you pass your exam with confidence, this training goes way beyond checking a box. Led by Heather Volchko, Candace McCoy, and Manny Wasius, and featuring Dr. Richard Van Acker, it's the first course of its kind that we know of, and we're proud of that. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org to enroll and get started. Let us teach you the basics, get you thriving, and move you onward through your journey to becoming an RBT today.
Teachers explicitly teach cognitive and metacognitive processing strategies to support memory, attention, and self-regulation of learning. Learning involves not only understanding content, but also using cognitive processes to solve problems, regulate attention, organize thoughts and materials, and monitor one's own thinking. Self-regulation and metacognitive strategy instruction is integrated into lessons on academic content through modeling and explicit instruction. Students learn to monitor and evaluate their performance in relation to explicit goals and make necessary adjustments to improve learning.
This week, we're talking about high leverage practice number 14, teaching cognitive and metacognitive strategies to support learning and independence. And Alex, oh my goodness, you have done this as a practitioner directly. You've supported families and staff under you to be able to implement these strategies to actually get that independence from your individuals. And now you're in a position where you're reviewing plans of other providers to make sure that all of this is still true. So for you, what does this practice look like?
I definitely feel that this practice means that we are doing everything we possibly can to ensure that this member is not dependent on the staff around them, that they can do everything on their own. I think a very good example of this as a practitioner, I have a lot of examples, but one that comes to mind so eloquently. One of my members, he was one of my OGs that I first started in the field with as a BCBA. Super smart type of kid that like I look at, I'm like, you're gonna go places in life. I know you are. What you're doing as a 4-year old is insane. Like, I don't think I've met any 4-year olds, including myself, when I was a 4-year old, and I don't think I was saying or doing half the things you were doing. He was just one of those kids that was just so bright. But, at the end of the day, he had a learning disability. He was diagnosed with ASD, and then he also had ADHD, and his ADHD was very severe. He was just very always in his own little world, always saying something, thinking about something, talking 20 steps ahead of you because he's already thought about everything in your conversation. But with him, he was challenging because when we first started working with him, we were in a daycare setting, and daycare setting, everything was perfect, everything was chill, like he did great, even to a point that mom and dad bought us some kindergarten workbooks, and we were trying to, like, on our downtime, we were like, okay, we're gonna do some work, like schoolwork. But we made it fun for him. It wasn't necessarily like us be like, we're gonna do work for fun time. It was a fun activity book. But we got him to a point that he did amazing, and I was like, wow, awesome, woohoo. Then he went to school. We weren't allowed in the school, so we were anxious because I mean, it was his first time in school. He was in kindergarten, didn't have that pre-K buffer before, so it didn't go well, and it went so poorly that they asked us to come into the school. So I found my next new challenge with him. By the time he started school, I kind of felt like I don't know what else to do with him because, like, he's advancing so quickly. And then I got to school, I'm like, oh, I guess this is the next challenge because he didn't have the self-management skills needed to be successful in that setting. He was a brain, you could ask him things and he would know it, but him being in a group setting was very difficult for him. So it took me a while to kind of hone in on what could work for him. Okay, like this is his skill set. This is what he can do, and he could do so much. This is what he is currently going through internally with his skill set and what he is currently capable of in the Venn diagram, what lands in the middle. And then I was like, he does have good rule governed behavior. So I was like, let me try something with him. And I bought bracelets for him. I bought like a blue one and a red one. And I was like, all right, hey, when the blue one's on, you gotta like look at your teacher, and then when the red one's on, you can't talk. So if obviously the blue one's on, the teacher's teaching, the kids can talk, so the red one will be on. If the blue one's off and he's doing work, that red one would stay on. So he learned the rules of each of the bracelets very quickly. I mean, I wasn't surprised. Like he knew the rules like the first day he put them on. And then we also had him on an intermittent schedule. We started off very dense. It's like, hey, every 5 seconds you're paying attention to your teacher, you get like a little tiny piece of candy that we're gonna break up into pieces because if not, you're gonna have a sugar rush. And he quickly understood the concept. He understood, okay, cool, this is on. I gotta pay attention, whether I like it or not. I gotta pay attention. And before I knew it, we were able to like increase that time. He was already like able to be there for a few minutes, attending to his teacher before getting that terminal reinforcer. So it was awesome. It was awesome just seeing him like the idea eventually was to phase out the bracelets and then just give him the ability to like have that self-management skill without the need of the aid. We also with him as well, he liked to ask a lot of questions. He was very funny like that. He'd always ask a million different questions about any little thing. He'd always ask like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, what am I supposed to do? So then another skill that we wanted to teach him was for him to write down the steps of everything he had to do and then just for him to cross it off after each time he did it. So it's like, hey, you're done with page 13, cross it off your list. Cross it off his list, and like the satisfaction he would get from like knocking things off a list was reinforcing to him. So, and that's like just one example of like hundreds that I have with members. But the most important thing is finding what worked for him. And I could definitely pull components of this and use it for another case. But I specifically put all these components together, knowing what worked for him, what he liked, and what was reinforcing to him. And I made sure that whatever we did with him was individualized to him. So that's just one of many examples of using these strategies in order to foster that independence in many of my members.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool example too because it's blending some of that attention regulation. It's also sort of the monitoring piece of what should I be doing right now and is my action matching whatever, those expectations are in my environment, right? I think you're hitting a lot of those metacognitive, cognitive styled strategies, but I think you did it in such a concrete way. I think in education, sometimes a lot of our practitioners will struggle is that you just kind of intuitively come into these things and you leverage something so concrete, right? Like this color or this bracelet when it's on, when it's off, right? Like it made something that was so ambiguous or intangible so overt that then the skills could just naturally progress from seeing how that connected. It's a really neat expression of how do you actually teach that. So I'm curious when you've taught, you're leaning into all of this independence. When you're teaching these things, do you find it more successful to teach them something and then go generalize it? Do you find it more successful to just sort of integrate it into what is going on in their day to day to see where that fits in? Or is it a combination of both? Like, how do you actually teach these skills to your people?
I think the answer is it depends. Depends on what we're doing, where the member's at, how old the member is, what is expected of him. There's just so many different factors that take place. In the case of the member that I spoke about before, my goal was to integrate that into that classroom setting. And I also would do teacher trainings with his teacher so I could teach her, hey, like, this is what we're doing. This is at some point we can't be here anymore. Like they're not gonna want us here anymore. Not the school, but the insurance. So I was like, I need you to like kind of pick this up and be able to when we step out, carry that baton. And it's difficult when the teacher she was by herself, and not that my client was a difficult he was not difficult, but he was hyper. And I can only imagine being one teacher in a classroom full of 20 kids and you have one very hyper one and some of the other kids doing their own thing. It could be a lot and it could be overwhelming. So my goal was to get him to such a point that she could carry out that intervention and teach a class and it not be so intimidating trying to carry out so many different things. She had a lot going on already. So my goal was to make it easy for her and then to ensure that the member was able to do it on his own and then to find it reinforcing to doing all those things on his own and to be successful in the classroom and be able to use those skills whenever he needed. And I think something that you said before and like resonated so much with me, turning something ambiguous into like concrete. And I love the way you eloquently put that because that's exactly how I felt trying to figure out how the hell am I going to get him to like understand what I'm trying to tell him to do. Because, I guess hey, pay attention. You could tell a child, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention until you're blue in the face. But if they're not paying attention, you saying it is not going to do anything. So I was like, how can I like make him understand that? So then once I realized, oh, I can give him some rules. He does great with rules. If I tell him a rule, he can recite that rule to me. He knows that rule. And I think once I was able to conceptualize it and make it concrete and make it understandable for him, it was just like night and day difference. It was awesome. And on top of that, I also had a very good team that they were able to implement it as written the protocol and make sure that everything that he was working on that he was getting reinforced for that and making sure that that intervention is carried out to the T. And I think at the end of the day that's one of the most important things when it comes to teaching self-management strategies and all these metacognitive strategies to a member where that seem very abstract is to make sure that everyone's on the same page, everyone's following the same protocol, and everyone is making it conceptualized for that member in a way that they understand it versus just expecting them to get it after the 100th time you telling them, pay attention, because that doesn't work.
Well, you're talking about it's got to be strategic. It's got to be systematic. Everybody's got to
Hmm.
be on the same page. There's got to be some like very concrete groundedness to the what are we doing and how are we doing it. And we've all got to do that in this like explicit kind of a way. But we can't just teach it one and done and then assume that it is stuck,
Hmm.
especially cognitive, metacognitive skills. Like there's so much that goes into that. And it's so contextually relevant that there's going to be sometimes where it doesn't fit and you shouldn't use it. So like, please don't like, how do you know where that fits and where that doesn't? And that's those multiple opportunities, right? Like how can we get so many different reps in that we can then start to see how this fits, how this doesn't. And I can actually give myself my own feedback as practicing and learning some of these things with that team that is doing it in such this, structured and systematic way. I think that's so cool because you're just guiding them through all of these opportunities with this embedded feedback, but maintaining that structure so that they can just like connect that right into those environments, those scenarios. And then that's what facilitates independence. And that's such a neat example.
That was always the idea. And again, I wish I could have been there longer to see it through all the way to the end. But I always felt that the baseline skills were there. It was just about focusing him in and teaching him how to like help himself focus in those moments and eventually phasing out all those things and getting him to a point where he could just do it on his own. Any member I feel is capable and to some degree of achieving those results. And then with him in particular, I just felt like he was there. He just needed that guidance to get him there so that way he could have that skill and apply it whenever he needs to.
Well, before we sign off today, I'm wondering if you can give a little bit of guidance to maybe our educators who are a little leery of this one. Most educators are coming in as content experts or very comfortable in more of that academic realm. And when we step into some things like this, although especially our practitioners who work with this population, they know it's necessary, like that it has to happen, but they don't always feel the most equipped to be able to help their students learn some of these skills. I'm curious if practitioner to practitioner, you can give them a little bit of guidance or encouragement to sort of step into helping their students learn these things in that structured, systematic, explicit way, as opposed to just sort of hoping that it naturally comes out as a part of, them engaging in the rest of their school experience.
I would definitely say it's very tricky. Any of the kids that we work with in this population, it's all individualized, and it's up to like their needs. But I have seen in my many years of doing this so many different like classroom management strategies that have essentially conceptualized these practices that we're talking about. I think the perfect one that sticks to my mind is the color chart, that if you're on green, that's the best. If you're on pink, you had a pretty good day. Yellow is, it's like whatever. And then orange, oh, you're not doing too good. And then red, oh no, I'm gonna have to write in your binder about it. I think that one has always been a very good classroom strategy. Having a teacher, it's difficult when you have a big class and you're all by yourself. So using that type of strategy is, I always found, very effective. But at the same time, depending on your kid, it may not be effective. And in my member's case, it was not effective. It was funny because he was always anxious about making sure he was on pink or green, but he just didn't care. So, because it just like, he would just be like, oh, whatever. Like, I want to be there, but if I'm not there, I'm not gonna like lose sleep over it. So I think it's very important for a teacher to like really look at a member, and if they have an IEP, look at that IEP, see what their accommodations are, see where they're at in their current developmental stages in life, and see, okay, like this is where he's at, this is what his IEP is, this is his accommodations, what can I pull together here that would be effective for him? And then let me try incorporating that strategy. And I think it's also very important to, in my case, we were in the school, but if a teacher knows that one of her kids is getting services, maybe reaching out to another practitioner, like, hey, so and so's mom told me that you're the case manager, you're the BCBA, and you're working with him, having some difficulties in the classroom with him. Is there, collaborating? That collaboration is so important. And I've always been very grateful to all the teachers that I've worked with because they've always been so open to collaborating. In a lot of the cases, a lot of my kids were very, very tricky to work with. They definitely put some teachers through their paces, but I was always so happy to like hop on a Zoom call or go to the school and observe and kind of give my feedback and let them know, hey, this is what we do, but you're in a classroom setting, so give me some time. Let me kind of make a augmented version of this that you can implement in the classroom while you're with your kids. So I always found it very important, that communication aspect. If there's ever a doubt, if there's ever any question, communicate is always important. And as a practitioner, I think it's very important to always do with all collaborators, like with everyone, like even a pediatrician, like always just making sure that we're all on the same page and all trying to assist each other in whatever way we can. I know it's tricky, but it's definitely, when it comes to teaching these kids the metacognitive strategies, or those self-management skills, it's just very important to kind of look at that member and be like, hey, let me kind of see where they're at. Let me see if I can talk to anybody, collaborate with them, and then kind of coming together and finding what works for them. Because if you try to do it all on your own, you may not get too far, especially if you're an educator and your classroom full of like 20 plus kids. It could get very overwhelming very quickly. So takes a village is one of the things I always used to tell a lot of my teachers. Like, it takes a village, and I would tell the parents too. It takes a village. It's very important for us to all work together if we want him to be the most successful he could possibly be.
I love that I asked the question of how would you suggest that practitioners learn how to teach their students to be more independent? And the answer is don't be independent. Go collaborate, go get to know like different people, get different strategies, and really like pool your resources. I think that alone just shows that teaching cognitive and metacognitive strategies is sometimes even just acknowledging when I need to advocate that I cannot be independent on this. And so I can really access my resources as an individual. That's just a fun way to end this conversation. So thank you so much, Alex, for joining me and sharing everything that you have done to help your variety of different individuals that you have worked with really learn those cognitive, metacognitive strategies all toward that independence.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Working with students who need long-term individualized support? Project Base is a 4-strand project designed for educators in self-contained classrooms serving students with low incident needs. You'll get step-by-step guidance on building a program that focuses on communication, daily routines, and real-world skill building. From setting up the classroom environment to designing personalized plans, this course helps you create a space where your students can grow and succeed in school and into adulthood. Led by Chris Zielinski and Carly Dietz, Project Base offers practical strategies, case studies, and planning tools to help you confidently support your students every step of the way. If you're ready to strengthen your program and build something that lasts, this project is your next step. If you're supporting emotional or behavioral needs in general ed or resource classrooms, Project Thrive helps you keep learning on track. And if you're in a therapeutic or alternative setting, building something from the ground up, Project Onward offers the structure and tools to do it well. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org to meet your team and begin building your home base today.
Students with disabilities often don't naturally employ learning strategies to boost their academic performance the way their typically developing peers do, which is why these strategies need to be explicitly taught. A key point to understand is that learning strategies aren't just step by step instruction. Instead, they serve as tools or heuristics that guide students in using high order thinking or applying complex skills. As Rosenshine and Meister described, these strategies facilitate learning rather than dictate every move. When students use strategies, they're engaging in a dual layer process of problem solving. First, they apply a cognitive strategy to a task, such as predicting outcomes, summarizing information, or making sense of context. On a higher level, metacognitive strategies kick in. They help students monitor their own performance, self regulate, and make decisions about the effectiveness of the approach they're using. The goal is to turn students into proficient problem solvers, enabling them to self monitor, identify problem areas, create solutions, and assess their own success. In essence, teaching students these cognitive strategies is about teaching them how to learn. These strategies are highly versatile and can be applied across various subjects and skill areas. Whether it's using strategic reading techniques, employing models for writing like the Self Regulated Strategy Development or SRSD, or solving math problems with schema based instruction, the core idea remains the same. Even strategies focused on memory retention, such as mnemonic devices or self management techniques like self monitoring, serve to empower students to take control of their learning. The most effective way to teach these strategies is through explicit instruction. This involves highly structured lessons where teachers model the use of the strategy, guiding students through practice, monitoring their practice, and providing feedback. During the modeling phase, teachers don't just demonstrate the task, they think aloud, showing students how skilled problem solvers approach and process tasks. This think aloud technique also strengthens students' metacognitive abilities by teaching them to reflect on their own thought processes as they work through challenges. This combination of strategy use and metacognitive development is what ultimately helps students become more independent and effective learners. Cognitive and metacognitive strategies are powerful tools designed to help students become more self directed and independent in their learning. While some students might naturally figure out strategies on their own, students with disabilities often need direct, explicit instruction to learn these strategies. This is where teachers play a critical role by teaching not only the strategies themselves, but also when and how to apply them. When teachers explicitly teach these strategies through modeling and guided practice, it's been shown to be highly effective for students with disabilities across various content areas. It's essential that teachers carefully select the strategies they introduce. This isn't just about picking any strategy, it's about using data and working collaboratively with colleagues to choose the approaches that will be most impactful for each student. The goal is to ensure that students are set up for success and that these strategies become a natural part of their learning process. One of the key components of this instruction is feedback. Teachers need to provide students with regular feedback on how they're using these strategies, reinforcing their application over time and across different learning settings. This helps to cement the use of strategies, ensuring that students continue to benefit from them in the long term. In short, teaching strategies effectively isn't just about the initial lesson. It's about guiding students to internalize and apply these tools, giving them the skills they need to thrive in their education independently. Teachers who effectively teach cognitive and metacognitive strategies play a crucial role in helping students become self directed and independent learners. They are particularly adept at recognizing learning or behavioral difficulties and use cognitive strategy instruction as a tool to empower students. One of the key things these teachers do is draw from evidence based practices that are already proven to address specific student needs. Instead of reinventing the wheel, they use strategies that have been shown to work, adjusting them to fit the individual learner. Task analysis is another vital aspect of their approach. By breaking down goals into smaller, achievable steps, these educators create a clear path for students to follow. They then teach this process explicitly, ensuring that students understand not just what to do, but how to get there. For tasks that require self regulation, things like setting goals, self monitoring, and using positive reinforcement, teachers provide direct instruction, guiding students in developing these essential skills. Strategic instruction models, such as the self regulated strategy development or the strategic instruction model, are frequently used by these teachers to boost student memory and information recall. Through these models, they deliver highly structured lessons that break down strategies into manageable chunks. Teachers often demonstrate the steps using think-alouds, a method where they verbalize their own thought process to show how effective problem solvers navigate tasks. This modeling of inner language is critical for students to learn how to monitor their own strategy use. Moreover, teachers ensure students have plenty of practice with the strategy in different contexts and over time. This variety helps students generalize the strategy to new situations, which is key for long term success. Monitoring student use of strategies is an ongoing process where teachers check for fidelity and assess whether any modifications the student has made might affect the strategy's effectiveness. This careful balance of explicit instruction, practice, and feedback helps ensure that students not only learn strategies, but also apply them independently and effectively across different learning environments. For school leaders, supporting teachers in effectively implementing strategies is a critical aspect of fostering student success. One of the key responsibilities is to ensure that educators have access to ongoing professional development, instruction, or coaching in a variety of strategies that can be applied across different educational settings. This equips teachers with a broader toolkit to address the diverse needs of their students, helping them implement these strategies in ways that enhance learning outcomes. It's also important for school leaders to actively monitor how teachers are selecting and using these strategies, ensuring that they align with both the students' needs and the grade level curriculum. Feedback here is vital. By providing targeted guidance, leaders can help teachers refine their approach, making sure the strategies chosen are the best fit for the challenges at hand. Additionally, staying on top of the latest research is essential. School leaders should not only keep educators informed about new strategies emerging from research, but also ensure that the necessary supports are in place to help teachers successfully implement these innovative approaches in their classroom. This kind of proactive leadership creates a dynamic learning environment where both teachers and students can thrive. Cognitive and metacognitive strategy instruction covers a variety of techniques aimed at transforming students into self directed and independent learners. The effectiveness of these strategies has been well documented across numerous studies and different content areas, demonstrating their value for students with various types of disabilities. When these strategies are taught explicitly, using clear modeling and guided practice, they significantly enhance students' ability to manage their own learning processes. This approach not only supports academic growth, but also builds essential skills that help students navigate and succeed in their educational journeys. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our board-certified behavior analyst, Marla Watts-Pacheco, to talk about our next high-leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow @ThresholdLearningTLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.